All right, it's week, I guess, 3 of the NBA season, and welcome to another episode of Three Dudes, One Hoop. I'm Mike. As always, joining me is Easy and Benny,
Yep.
and we're a little high on life right now because we just got copped some tickets to go watch two top five teams according to NBA.com power rankings. So we're gonna watch the Heat Bulls in December. And we're going to kick off this conversation talking about the number one ranked team at NBA.com, right? Official website of the NBA, NBA.com. Their power rankings have the Miami Heat at number one through 3 weeks. Obviously, only 6 games, really
I'm sure it was
early in the
really hard for
season.
them to have us as number one, but they had no
Yeah.
choice.
ESPN had us on number two, so I don't know what's going on over there. SI Sports Illustrated had the Heat also at number one, so it's not just because we're Heat fans. It's not just because I'm wearing a Heat shirt, but we got to talk about the Miami Heat. They're red hot through 6 games. I guess we'll also talk about some of the other teams in the power rankings because we got to talk about other teams that are just not the Miami Heat. But there's a lot of interesting teams that we're going to talk about here in the top 10. Probably teams we talked about a little bit in our preseason predictions, but some teams it may be more surprising on the teams that are not here. So we'll talk about those too. But we'll kick it off with the Heat. They just came off a win against the Grizzlies, and I think they play again tonight, right, Benny? Against Let me
If
see.
no,
No,
they're on again tomorrow.
okay, they play tomorrow night, Tuesday. No, we're recording this on Monday, November 1st. So they play again tomorrow against
Yeah.
Dallas. They're coming off a 4-game winning streak. So we'll see how that goes.
They got a tough
Butler's playing
stretch coming
great.
up.
Yeah, really tough slate of games. We got Dallas, Boston, Utah, Denver, Lakers, all within the next week. So that's going to be pretty interesting. But I'll,
Yeah.
I'll throw it to you, Benny. What do you see from this team? Why are they deserving of being in that number one position on so many different power ranking websites?
The first place to start, they got the number one defense in the NBA, and that's clear to see. I actually think that as far as a defensive trio, I don't think there's a better one than whether you want to have Jimmy Butler, Bam, and PG Tucker, or Jimmy Butler, Bam, and Kyle Lowry. Or even if you want to say a top four defensive group on one team, there isn't one, and it's showing on their throughout their games. Their point of attack defense is much improved. Their paint defense is looking so good, and they're holding teams to, I was checking it now, they're holding teams to a league best or worst, however you see it, 41%, 41.5% from the field. And that's number one in the NBA. And what's I think is most impressive about this team is how good their offense is looking. I think we all expected their defense to be really good, especially when they finalized the acquisition of Kyle Lowry. But their offense is also looking really smooth. And this is with Duncan Robinson not getting off to the best start, which I don't want to say is concerning, but he's a $90 million player now, right? So you're going to have some sort of expectations for Duncan Robinson. It's something that you expect to come along. Eric Spoelstra was asked, I forget if it was the Memphis game or the Charlotte game over this past weekend. He was asked, Duncan was only 2 for 11 from three. Are you concerned? And he's like, yeah, I'm concerned because he only shot the ball 11 times. So, I mean, that kind of tells you that Eric Spoelstra does have obviously does have hope, or he does expect Duncan Robinson to get back to his best, to get those shooting splits up. I think he will too. Only 6 games. By that same token, if we're going to talk about Duncan Robinson struggling, saying it's only 6 games, we have to also mention that the Heat have only played 6 games. So it's a great start. It's a great
A
start for
little
sure.
early,
I'm
a
really
little early.
happy
A
for
little
sure,
early.
Mike. I'm sure you're really happy too. But
Yeah, for
again,
sure.
it's 6 games. I mean, long may it continue, but the Heat are looking really good. I think I'm very comfortable in saying that the Miami Heat are in contention to reach the NBA Finals again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they look like the class of the East right now. Obviously, you have teams like Brooklyn and Philadelphia that's still figuring things out. Boston as well.
I
We'll
think
see how
since
that
we
kind of
last
goes.
spoke,
Yeah.
sorry, I think since we
Mhm.
last talked, they played Brooklyn, Charlotte, and now they played Memphis.
Mhm.
And Brooklyn, obviously, they played against Kevin Durant and James Harden. They looked really good. They matched up. I don't think the Nets can match up well with the Heat, because if you want to look at their, especially in the front court depth, where I'm looking at Blake Griffin, LaMarcus, and Paul Millsap, those guys are used to being throughout their careers. They were used to being kind of the number one options that their teams kind of cater to. So what I mean by that is they were never expected to do like the dirty work stuff that you need to be able to beat a team like
Yeah,
the
you need
Heat
glue
that had
guys. Yeah,
glue, which is
absolutely. Yeah,
The Miami Heat now have a ton of glue guys.
absolutely.
And I think as far as from an effort perspective, and even just as far as like understanding your role perspective, because we've been seeing guys like Caleb Martin give the Heat good minutes. And I think the Nets are going to struggle with that a little bit, at least when they're facing the Heat. The Hornets had the number one offense in the NBA, and they didn't even get to 100 points. Sure, they got 99, but they didn't get to 100, right?
Yeah.
And they didn't get to 100 points. The Heat played really, really well. It got a little nervy there, I think, in the third quarter where they cut it down, but the Heat played them really, really well, man. They were really a test for the Heat. And then against Memphis, Bam Adebayo couldn't play, and they played him off the floor as well. So
Yeah, and I think the offense has been probably better than I would have expected, just given, you know, kind of the new additions, and it typically, I think the Heat kind of have slow starts. That's kind of their MO. But they've gone off to a really fast start. I think the chemistry is really good. Their offensive net rating or offensive rating is 111.6, which is fourth in the NBA right now. And like you said, Benny, the defensive rating is number one. So obviously, you're going to win a ton of games if you keep that up. But I really like the additions of Markieff Morris and PJ Tucker. I think they're giving the Heat just like more wings that you can throw out there and just attack their star players. We saw it with the Bucks against Giannis, and again with the Nets, and on Saturday at the Grizzlies, like John Morant just could not do anything. He just couldn't get it going, and without Ja, the Grizzlies just fell apart. So I really like the new additions. They're already getting off to a fast start. So I guess with that being said, we can cool it on some of the love for the Heat. Easy, do you have any last thoughts on the Heat before we move on to another?
Yeah, I can bring some. Let's relax for a second. Again,
bring it down.
You're
bring the
going
mood down.
You're going on a great start.
Real quick, Easy,
think,
before would you guys agree that the Heat could be in contention to reach the finals?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I said that before the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I had them. Okay. You guys had them a little higher than I did in the preseason.
I think we had them at 3, right, Easy?
Yeah, you had them at 3.
Least.
You had them at 4.
Yeah.
I mean, they're blowing that out right now. So for sure, they're definitely
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, when they made the acquisition of Kyle Lowry and they spent the money in PJ Tucker and Duncan Robinson, I said you need to believe this team is a finals team. Mm-hmm. You need to. You can't just pay these guys and expect them to like kind of sort of contend for the finals. Like, no, you got to contend for the finals. This is it. Like, you're not going to get better than this once you do this, because you got to extend Tyler Hero later. So like, it needs to happen whether you want to believe it or not. I have to believe that they're a team that wants to contend, because that's what they're paying for. That's what they're doing. They're investing. My bad, phone's ringing right now. Give me a second.
That's all right.
That's Pat Riley.
No, yeah, but I think it's exactly what Easy's saying. Like, they're going all in now into this window, and for Kyle Lowry, like, he's an aging asset, but he still has like a couple good seasons that you can squeeze out of him, right? I think that's where you're going with that, right?
Yeah. So like they like I said, their window's 2 years or 3 years at most, in my opinion. By 2025, this roster won't be what it is today. So you have to go for the championship. And on the note of like the Heat starting off great, let me just break this down real quick. The Heat played a Milwaukee team that was missing like 4 or 5 guys. So I disregard that game. And it was also after cool off from the Milwaukee getting the rings from the game before.
Yeah, that was definitely a letdown.
It is what it is. Yeah. Indiana, they lost to Indiana, which is a 1-6 team or 1-5 team. So great. You beat the Magic, which everyone's beating the Magic. So congratulations on that. Brooklyn,
Franz Wagner,
solid
so
win.
Annoying.
Franz Wagner, bro. That's the next boost. Brooklyn, good win. Charlotte, as great as they are offensively, so the defense did a phenomenal job. Their defense is atrocious. Atrocious, like awful. Like, they let the Heat score 114. So they're atrocious. And then Memphis without Ja, like you guys said, the defense looks impeccable. But let's slow down on let's get into the stretch, right? Let's see how they do against the teams that have continuity, like Utah, Denver, LA. Like, again, Denver will probably lose, but at least they've been together for years, so maybe they play better. Who knows? And I don't know. Like, I feel like they don't have a lot of games coming up that are like really, really competitive yet. So I think that second half of the season is when the Heat are going to have to hit their stride, and that's when they're going to have to play some better teams. So we'll see in the long term. The signs are all up. Like, you can't get off to a better start than what the Heat have done. You can't ask them to do more than what they've done. So Yeah, they look good.
I agree, and I think that yeah, and I agree with what you're saying about like at least the strength of schedule so far. We're seeing kind of when you put it into context, like the Bucks were missing players. I guess you could even say Brooklyn doesn't have Kyrie. Um, the Hornets have a bad defense, but I do like the. It's encouraging to see, at least compared to what the Heat were rolling out with last year. It's encouraging to see, like for example, like their best the players struggle a little bit. Like LaMelo struggled a little bit when they played him. He's played well pretty much every other game he's been in. John Moran struggled against the Heat. James Harden struggled really badly against the Heat as well. So those things are nice to see, at least from
For sure.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the roster is definitely full with a lot of defensive, hard nosed players, glue guys like we were talking about. So we'll see where they go from here. They have a tough set of games ahead, like we were talking about earlier. But from
Okay.
there, I guess we can kind of bounce around. I don't know if you kind of want to talk about the Bulls or the Utah Jazz, were number 2. But there's some pretty good teams right now. This first couple weeks of the NBA.
Where are the Bulls
Yeah.
in that?
So the Bulls are at number 5 in the power rankings. So they have an offensive rating of 10, defensive rating of 6. So the top 10 in both categories. Lonzo's been playing well. The DeMar DeRozan's been a really good addition on that team, and Vucevic, still doing Vucevic's thing. So we're very excited to see them in December when they play against the Heat. That'll be a great matchup. I don't know. Have you guys been able to catch a game of the Bulls lately, or do you guys have any thoughts on how they're doing so far? It's a pretty good start for them.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
Benny, I don't know
Yeah,
if you
go for
wanted
it.
to go off first or
Go
'cause
ahead. It's fine.
I've seen a couple
I'll come in
parts of
after.
Bulls games. They move so well in the open court. Their transition offense is like it's just insane. They got runners everywhere. They got guys hustling on defense every single play. Like they're tenacious. They're scrappy in a way. And they got scores. Like again, like maybe not like 3-point scores necessarily, but they got scores. And like if someone's having an off night, you're not worried that your team is going to completely fall apart if you're the Bulls, because you have, let's say DeMar's having a bad game. Guess what? You got Zach LaVine and Voos that can carry it. You even have Alonzo who can fill it in from here and there. It's just a team that's so starter strong that like their bench doesn't even really matter until you hit like second round of playoffs, probably, if we're being honest. Like that's when it's going to start the bench is going to be like noticeably bad. We'll see. I mean, the Bulls look really good. I'm really excited about that team and what they can do just because of the mismatches that they can create on the offensive side. Defensively, their intensity would need to keep up throughout the season and into the playoffs. So that's something that we're going to have to watch and see if that actually keeps happening. The loss of Patrick Williams for the year is probably going to be huge for them. At least from the wing perspective, because there's a lot of wings that they're going to have to end up covering in the playoffs, at least in the East. So time will tell, but great start for the Bulls. Really excited for that Heat Bulls game coming up. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And their schedule so far has been pretty easy. Just looking at it now, they played Detroit twice. The Pelicans, Toronto, New York. Though they lost against New York. Utah, they beat them 107-99. That's probably their most impressive win of the season.
By far.
And then it's gonna get tough for them. I mean, they play Boston, who's in the middle of trying to figure out
We'll get
if
into
they're good or
Boston
not.
later.
We'll get to them. They play Philly back to back, Brooklyn, Dallas, Golden State, LA Clippers.
We'll see. We'll see how these teams
weeks.
do in the next couple weeks. That's when it's going to really tell us if they got something going or not.
Yeah, but they're definitely fun to watch. I mean, you see those Showtime highlights with Lonzo and Caruso, and it's the Caruso, as they say. So it's been pretty fun to keep up with. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, Ben, if you had any other thoughts before we move on to another team, to our next team.
Yeah, I think I'm more impressed with their offense, kind of like what Easy was saying. Billy Donovan was always a good defensive coach. So like those OKC teams that they maybe didn't have the best defenders, they had guys like Roberson and Durant, but other than that, not really. Or Ibaka as well, but those teams played really overachieved defensively as well. Even going back to college at Florida, and now with the Bulls, he just added Lonzo Ball, so he's gonna have a blast running it with him. But I think offensively, like the best thing that they have now is just other players that can take the ball away from Zach LaVine, not have him have to do everything. I guess we're seeing that now, right? Because didn't he have like a hand ligament injury, whatever?
So he has. No, he's not going to be out. He's playing through the fractured ligament or something like that, but it's in his non-shooting hand. So
Yeah.
it's not really like a thing that's gonna stop him from playing.
Yeah. But yeah, DeRozan's been really good for them as well, like you were saying, Mike. And I was gonna mention what you guys were saying, how about the schedule. We're gonna have to see as it goes on because
Yeah.
at least I know they just played Utah and they played against New York, which are two good teams, and they won one of those games, which is good. But like to start off the season, they did play, they played Detroit twice, they played New Orleans, and
Yeah. Some really bad teams.
yeah. Again, none of us think Chicago's bad, but it's gonna kind of see how that goes. I think this is the team that could probably um overshoot the three of our expectations that we had at the start of the season, because all of us had them towards the end of the bottom eight, right, of the Eastern
I
Conference.
think I had them at 6.
I
Let me
think, yeah, I
check.
believe I had them at 6 or 7. So I had them either at
Yeah,
play-in or on the cusp of a play-in berth.
Yeah, I
right,
probably
Yeah.
had them play in too.
Yeah.
If I'm
right. I
thinking
had him
about it.
playing as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I was talking to, I guess, friend of the pod, Chris Coipel,
Shout
very
out.
early, like after one
Yeah.
or two games into the season. He was saying that he could easily see this team go to 4 because I guess
Easily.
Boston struggling, Philly struggling. You could definitely see that happen.
Yeah, for sure. They're on the up and up, and in order for a team to ascend, other teams got to fall. So I
Yeah.
guess we can talk a little bit about the Celtics and kind of their
Yeah.
struggles.
Let's get into the Celtics.
It's been weird for them. They're out of the playoffs right now. The playoffs started tomorrow, so we're seeing kind of a struggle between Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. The new coach has been having some moments. Benny, you can talk about that story because you were telling us before the pod. But how do we feel about the Celtics, where they're going in a direction? They have a few games coming up here, so do we think they're going to pull it together? Do we see them kind of getting out of this funk and being good? I mean, their roster is better than their record, and they have 2 star players. So on paper, it doesn't really make sense with why they're struggling so much. But is it the new coach?
It's probably a little bit. I would have to go to the coach, I guess. I mean, these guys, they can't guard anybody. Like I was seeing now, the only teams they've held under 100 are Houston and Toronto, right? But they gave
Yeah,
up
that's
138 to New York, 140 to Charlotte,
yeah.
over 115 twice to Washington in back-to-back games.
That's the bad one in my opinion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Those are really bad games there. Or sorry, it was 130 to Charlotte, not 140. But yeah, still.
Great.
Yeah. It's not
Yeah.
good.
You're letting Miles Bridges drop like 1,000,000 points on you. Great. That's so much better.
Yeah, but yeah, like you were saying, we were talking about it off pod. Like they play almost entitled. Like I don't know if that's the right word for it, but it's just what keeps coming
It
to
is.
mind for me. That they play
It's
almost
the right word.
Yeah, that they're playing almost entitled. Like they are putting themselves in the Eastern Conference Finals already, right? At least. And we were talking about it off pod that this is a Boston Celtics score that has never made the finals. And throughout the history of time, that's a failure. You're a failure if you're a Celtics score that hasn't made the finals, because most of the ones before them have made it, at least going back to the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, with players of that caliber, I mean, they should be
exactly.
They should be there, except for like a little period in like the early 2000s when they were kind of crap, and I guess the 90s they weren't really that great. But yeah, I mean, if you have 2 star players like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, usually they put together a roster that makes it. And this roster isn't bad. I mean, you have Al Horford, who's it's kind of aging. Dennis Schroeder can still give you something. Josh Richardson, Marcus Smart, who's been hurt the past few games. Enes Kanter. So this roster, like I said, I feel like it's better than it is. But you were saying that story about the new coach. Why don't you tell that real quick before?
Oh yeah. So I think it was after I want to say it was after the first Washington loss. The score line was closer than probably should have been. That's just because Washington feels like they let off their gas a little bit. But Ime Udoka, their head coach for the Boston Celtics, he was asked about the game, and he's always like been really like, I've noticed that he's like a really kind of open, straightforward guy. He's a first year head coach, so he's probably going to learn to not be so open with the press, especially, which is the opposite of Brad Stevens, who's always very, a lot quieter, just coach speak, and that's it. I'm good to go. And
exactly. Coach speak. Exactly.
Yeah. But with Ime Udoka, he was asked, hey, your team, they looked like they weren't giving any effort. They were playing poorly. What's going on with that? And he said, he was talking about their shoot around earlier that day. And he was saying that he kind of, I guess he paused practice or shoot around, whatever. And he called them over. He said that they were going to get their ass kicked if they keep fooling around in practice, basically is what he's saying. And I think that's I was telling you guys that I think he should have kept that one in the drafts when he was going to talk to the media because
Yeah. Give them the
that's
notes app
I think
separate.
that's damning for him. And I know he's a first year head
Yeah.
coach, but still he's the head coach, right? So he has to have some sort of expectation for him. And I think that's a little damning that, he called them out. They're going to get their ass kicked if you guys don't try. Practice goes on. They get to the game. They get their ass kicked because they didn't try.
Yeah,
And
back-to-back games that they dropped against the Wizards. Yeah.
exactly. And it's only at the time, I think it was only 5 games into the season. And, you're not seeing players. I don't want to say respect because we only know this story, but they're not following what the coach is saying, I think. And it's going to be I think it's going to be a tougher season than we thought for them.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough, especially because you have so many players on this team who have been here for a minute. I mean,
Yeah.
and your star players that are, you have Brown and Tatum who've been on this team longer than he has, obviously. So it's not a brand new team. It's not a particularly a super young team, although they are. I guess they have a good mix of vets and young guys. But what about you? Do you see anything else? Like, do you see this turning around anytime soon for them, or are they just gonna keep struggling?
I don't know if it's going to turn around anytime soon. I kind of have an opposite take on the coach calling him out. I think he needs to. And I think the team has like an attitude problem. And if you
Yeah.
can't get to them behind the door, you might as well get to them outside the door because at this point, these
Words to
Leo was
live
saying,
by Easy. Goddamn,
I
that was a
mean,
good quote.
there gets to a point where this team has tried making playoffs so many years and they just keep failing and failing and failing. And then there's something called continuity when you're actually winning, but you don't want to have continuity when you're always losing. And this team, other than the conference finals run that they made that one year, it's not a good continuity that they've had for the last 5-6 years. So like there's gonna have to come a point where you're like, again, I don't want to like say like you got to sell like some players and stuff like that, but it sometimes it just doesn't work. Like it just doesn't, like, and whether or not it works somewhere else for another guy, that's different. But like, I'm not saying trade Tatum or Jaylen Brown tomorrow, but at the same time, like you have guys like Marcus Smart that you say are like these great high character player leaders. And like, how valuable are they really to your team if your team isn't making the changes necessary to start winning? Like, how integral is that player if nothing is really changing? And on top of
And
that,
yeah,
yeah. What were you gonna say, Leo?
no, I was gonna say like on the Marcus Smart point, it's a great point because he was the player for the past few years that whenever we talked about a trade for the Celtics, he was always in that conversation. But now his value this year is kind of in the toilet a little bit. He hasn't been playing that great. He's averaging 7 points. His assist to turnover ratio is a 2. That's not great for a point guard. So his value is kind of in the toilet. He's been hurt. So
Yeah.
it's they kind of, if they're gonna sell him now, they're not getting him at his peak value. So when you talk about like the front office for them, and they've been kind of
Yeah.
they've had a lot of change and turmoil the past couple seasons where they just haven't. It feels like they've wasted a lot of opportunity with their draft capital and just
Yeah. The front
they
office
didn't, they
failed.
didn't make trades. Yeah, it feels like a failure on their part.
We can't act like what the Celtics did with the assets that they had isn't a failure. I don't know how you can consider it a success.
Not a single finals appearance for that group. 3 conference finals, but
right. And like, I can't consider it a success when you have all these assets and then instead of like trading for something to support Tatum and Brown in their development, right? Like these guys are getting better every year. You want to build around them. How are you not getting a third guy? Like after the Kyrie thing happened, you should have already been going after like other star players. You should not have settled for like another type of guy. Like
I think they
Kemba,
expected, yeah, exactly.
with all respect to Kemba, he is an only offensive player. And Kemba couldn't even take the Hornets the Hornets now, not the Bobcats. Thought about him and the Bobcats. He couldn't even take the Hornets to the playoffs by himself except for 1 year. So like he's not going to take you over the hump. Like, I mean, why would you think he can? You should have been going after like actual guys that can help you win. Like, again, I don't know what happens behind closed doors. I don't know what happens, but like James Harden, did they even try to trade for him? Did they try?
Yeah, the trades haven't worked, and the draft picks haven't been much better.
They're
aside from
horrible.
Tatum and Brown. I mean,
They're
Aaron
horrendous.
Nesmith, Peyton Pritchard, Romeo Langford, Grant Williams, all guys in different stages of their beginning of their career, but none of them have worked out,
None.
at all. So
Pritchard is okay, but like
yeah,
he's a backup.
He's
not a
getting 15
starter.
minutes a game right now. He's not
Right.
really. They're not depending
Yeah.
on him. You know.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. You had all these picks and you ended up picking anyways. And it's like, if you're picking that late into the draft, does it really help you win? Like, why aren't you trading these picks? I remember, like, obviously not. Like, I feel bad for Brad Stevens because this is a situation that he inherited in terms of the GM that he was the coach for. So it's just kind of like he's fixing the problem that was already his problem when he was a coach, anyways, because he was dealing with the GM not getting him any talent, anyways. Because, like, you can tell me that they got Kemba, you can tell them that they got Evan Fournier, you can tell me that they got Horford back. They should have never let Horford walk to begin with, but they did. It's just, to me, the Celtics have just been a failure in the last, at least to their standard of what they're supposed to be doing. It's been a failure. You can make 3 conference finals all you want, but the fact that you make 3 different conference finals with 3 different types of teams around Tatum and Brown, you couldn't even get one of them to the finals, tells you already all that you need to know about your team and what you're doing. Like, how are you not making finals at least one of those years? Come on.
Yeah, they have a lot to figure out for sure, and it's going to be interesting the rest of the way if they can make any trades. And Brad Smith, Stevens, like you said, is going to have to figure out what to do from here with this kind of spare parts that he has sitting on the bench.
I think they'll find out like what sort of executive he's going to be.
Yeah,
right?
100%. Yeah, it's going to be a huge test for him. Because they can't. I don't think this roster is going to stay the same throughout the rest of the year. So,
not if they're expecting to even make the playoffs at this point.
Yeah,
at this point. I mean, like, I think they can make play-in, but like, you're playing for play-in. I mean, come on, like,
that's bad. Yeah,
that's
I mean,
bad.
at that point, you're just hoping that by post All-Star break, with whatever trade you've made and Tatum and Brown just kind of keep ascending, that you're going to get hot and just end up making a run. But it doesn't look good for them in the early going. But I guess we can keep going here. I did want to kind of go on the other side of the spectrum and talk about a team that's doing really well and bouncing back from an off year, and that's the Warriors. So they're number 3 in the the power rankings that I've been seeing. They're 11th in offensive rating, 5th in defensive rating, which makes sense considering some of the signings they have and kind of the players that we've seen in terms of their depth. So this is a team that's waiting, kind of a sleeping giant, right? With Clay coming back, and obviously Steph is playing incredibly well right now. So I love the bench that they have. Otto Porter, I think, is a good addition. Looney's giving them decent contributions. Bielitsa, somebody who's all of a sudden pretty good glue guy for them. What are you guys seeing? I guess start with you, Benny. How do you feel about the Warriors' hot start? Do you view them as a contender? Like, do you think they're gonna be back in the top of the West, especially once Clay comes back?
I think when Clay comes back, yeah, because they can only look better, right?
Yeah.
Clay isn't a guy. I don't think Clay is a guy that he will demand like 30 shots a game. Well, we know he's not that player really. He's a star player that it's weird because he needs the ball to shoot, right? But I think that he can fit in so many different ways into an offense that it's very difficult for me to see him disrupt what the Warriors have going on right now, especially with his chemistry with Stephen Curry, obviously. But offensively, they're looking really good. Defensively, they're looking really good too. I think credit to Steve Kerr, at least for the start that they're having, right? Because I have had my doubts about Steve Kerr for a little bit these past. I thought last year was a
still
big
do,
disappointment.
but
yeah. No, they're not gone.
Yeah.
They are not gone. But it's just credit to the good start that they've had, right? That the team is playing really well, better than I personally thought they would be. I think Steve Kerr does get a little bit of credit there. Obviously, if it continues, he'll get more. But
yeah. I got a couple notes on them.
Yeah, go for it.
I mean, Curry hasn't even been playing that well, if we really think about it. He's shooting 42% and 39 from 3, which I guess 39 from 3 is not bad for a normal guy, but for Steph, that's pretty bad. He's supposed to shoot better than
that's like average.
He's an above 40 3-point shooter, and he's 42% from the field. I can't see that getting worse when Clay comes back. That's only going to help him get more efficient. There's some guys here that aren't even playing to the ability that they're supposed to be playing. Jordan Poole has had flashes of looking great, but then he'll like shoot himself out of a game. He shoots 24% from the 3. If I see him take another moving 3-pointer, I think I'm just going to turn off the TV because it drives me crazy. Every time he sets and shoots, he makes it, but every time he's on the move, he misses it, at least from the 3. So like, there's things that need to be fixed offensively on this team. But adding Clay is not gonna be an issue at all. Like this will only help everybody else play better. 100%. I think they're overachieving a little bit right now. I think they're getting a few lucky calls at the end of games too to win. They're getting like they're doing what winning teams do, which is getting hot at the right time, at least during games. And I mean, it's showing on the record right now. So I think they do what they also did was add some veterans that actually, can play the game of basketball and not just a bunch of young guys around Curry. And I think that's showing on the court. Like you said, Otto Porter has been a very quality guy to have in there when Draymond and Curry are out there. Toscano Anderson's giving some really good minutes too in the hustle area. Iguodala even just being there as a player, it's just like a calming presence when he's out there. They're used to him. So this team, I don't know if they're a finals team yet. Again, I want to see more. I want to see them have a game where like they really just win. Like they don't just like tinker around, like they're like, yeah, we're up. Oh no, we're back down. Like I want to see you dominate. Like if you guys can really dominate a basketball game or basketball games consistently for multiple games, maybe I'll start buying into it a little bit more.
Right.
And maybe that'll happen when Wiseman and Clay come back. We're not even talking about Wiseman, and Wiseman is a 7-foot center who can grab boards and shoot from the outside allegedly. So like, I don't even like, we haven't even seen this team in full health, which is the insane part. And they're doing this. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
If you're a Warriors fan, you should be very excited.
Oh yeah, and I think one thing to note too is it feels like when I'm watching these games, and it just could be the same old Warriors, but it feels like they're leaning even more to taking threes per game. Like the amount of threes that they're taking per game, it feels like it's higher than it's ever been, and that's without
Like
Clay.
40, it's like 40 a game.
It's ridiculous. I mean, you have Curry's averaging 15 3-point attempts a game right now, which is pretty insane. And you have like 1, 2, 3, 4 other guys who are shooting about 5 a game. So
You
that's
got
pretty
Damian
crazy.
Lee shooting 5 threes
Yeah.
a game. Do you really
Yeah.
think they're going to be worse when Clay comes back and shoots more than 5 threes a game?
Yeah, I mean, he'll probably be taking shots away from those other guys, but like that would be a good
I
thing.
hope
So
I hope so.
yeah,
like,
exactly.
whatever.
That's what you want.
I hope he's taking shots away from Jordan Poole, because Jordan Poole only takes shots fading away into the corner. It's fine.
Exactly.
Whatever. I'm okay.
Yeah, so we'll see. I was a little surprised to see the defensive rating so high because I feel like that's a little bit of
It's a little bit of a
Fugazi. Like that's not like
yeah.
a facade. You know what I mean? That's not gonna. I don't think that'll persist for the rest of the year.
It's just it
But
doesn't even show in the games. Like
That's
it
what I
doesn't
was
even
gonna say.
show.
It's
yeah,
something
I
the eye
think they're
test will
just
tell you.
playing. This like we've talked about with a couple other teams. Like the schedule has been pretty good to them so far.
Oh, yeah.
But with Clay coming back, if Clay's a two-way player, I think some people
Yeah.
tend to forget that. So I'm hoping even after all these injuries that he can still do that.
Yeah.
Certainly if you're a Warriors fan, you're definitely hoping that he comes back to what he was 2 years
I'm
ago.
excited. I'm excited
Yeah.
for Wiseman too, man.
Yeah.
Again, like I don't know what he is as a prospect, but I do know what he is. And he's a 7-footer who's not 6'9" like Kevon Looney. And I know that he can actually block some shots in the paint, which Looney can't. He can give me hustle, but he ain't gonna do anything from the center position that's gonna change a game. Maybe
Yep.
Wiseman can. I'm a little bit more excited for Wiseman just because I know what Clay is, and I know that he's not gonna hurt the team. Wiseman's the one that I'm a little bit more interested in.
Yeah.
And we'll see. I mean, I don't know when he comes back. He might come back around the time that Clay comes back, if I'm being honest.
Probably, and I'm just remembering from last year, his rookie year, he got off to a really good start, and then kind of ended up in the doghouse for a little while before he got hurt. So we'll see. He had up and down rookie year, but he's so young. I mean, we'll see how that pans out.
Sure.
So I don't know if there's any other teams we want to hit up. Kind of in our power rankings here.
Does anybody have a team? Because I got a couple teams.
I think I got all the ones that I want to talk about out. I mean, we could talk about the Kings later if you wanted to, but they're not really in the power rankings right now.
Yeah, I was actually gonna go like flip side and talk about
go for it.
Toronto. Toronto's 4-3, and they're doing this without Siakam on the court. And Scotty Barnes is looking kind of for real, guys.
Scotty Barnes is good.
He's kind of looking good, and that's a terrifying thought. This is a team that their wins aren't against really the strongest opponents, but I think that's what they needed to do, is to win these games before they can actually get back to a healthy Siakam and win some games. I'm not saying they're going to make a huge noise in the playoffs or anything like that, but like they can steal a spot from the Celtics in the play-in. Like I don't see that being so hard to conceivably believe with the roster that they have. With a Van Vliet, Siakam, Scotty Barnes looking great. They Anunoby, like they just have guys that like they know their role. Like again, and I think it's so important to like know your role on a team. And this is a team that has guys that know their role. And I don't know. I thought Toronto. I've seen Scott, like just the way Scotty Barnes plays. It's just like
He's really athletic. He's like really athletic.
he's just really really
And
good.
Toronto always gets these like freaky, like long guys like Siakam, Anunoby, like you're talking
And Goran
about.
Dragic.
And Goran Dragic, who hasn't played the last 4 games. I don't know what's going on with his situation. He got like moved to the bench and then just hasn't played.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're definitely, when Siakam comes back, they're going to be pretty scary with all those like long guys on the wing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be a tough out for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Benny, you got another team? Because I can keep going here.
No, keep going. Go ahead.
All right, I got you. Going on the topic of, because we talked about coaches like hirings of coaches and like who we were excited about, who we're not excited about. I was never excited about any of these coaches. Maybe the Celtics coach I was a little bit excited about just because I know who he is as like a coach. And like I still don't think he's gonna be that great. But Rick Carlisle, Indiana Pacers, 1-6. Orlando Magic. I don't even know who their new head coach is, but he's also 1-6.
Oh no, Wes Unseld is in Washington.
Right? Pelicans.
Yeah, Wes Unseld in Washington.
Pelicans 1-6.
Yeah.
These are just, I mean, Portland, they got off to a horrendous start, 3-3, and this is the team that's been together. So like, the only coach that's doing well is the Washington Wizards coach, 5-1, and again, not the hardest wins to get, but we definitely didn't expect to see the Washington Wizards at 5-1. So credit to him. But like, these are some teams that like you hire a new coach and you expect some motivation. Even Dallas is a 4-2, but that is a weak 4-2 if we're being honest. That is a very, very like that is a really, really weak 4-2. And like by weak, I mean like I have zero confidence in this team to keep doing this for the rest of the season. Like you beat the Kings, congratulations. You beat my team. You beat our team, 3 dudes, 1 hoops team. But you beat
Kings
Houston and you beat the Spurs. Great. You also got blown out by Atlanta and Denver. So like, I am not inspired by Dallas at all.
Yeah.
I just think that like the coaches, like the coaches are just, I guess like on paper, like people might have thought the coach hirings were good, but like I never thought these coaches were like these world beaters that were really going to change a team. And so far, I think we're seeing that a little bit, and we're going to keep seeing that. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Benny. Were you gonna say something?
No. I just said like I agree with these. Like the Minnesota head coach, like the results aren't looking too rough. They have a new head coach as well.
Right.
Like I was seeing that they beat Milwaukee, but that's really they were tight with Denver.
Yeah,
but yeah, man, it really sucks because aside from Rick Carlisle, I think
I said it from the beginning, man. Yeah. Rick Carlisle was not the right fit for that team.
Yeah. But aside from him, like where I was going with that was I'm pretty sure he was the only one that's not a rookie head coach. Or is that okay?
I think that sounds about right. Well, Jason Kidd.
Oh, right. Jason Kidd. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, aside from Carlisle and Kidd, like it always sucks because like these guys that have never been head coaches, they're always going to end up in the worst situations. Really, if you think about it, or at least pretty tough situations. The Washington, he's doing really well. Like you said, it's a 5. It's not gonna hold most likely, but I guess he's doing okay. But there's
great start.
Even though Washington's doing well, Washington's not really a good job. Or like there's New Orleans, there's Orlando, and teams like that. So it's always gonna be really tough for rookie head coaches to break in. So I think Emil Udoka is probably the most disappointing out of that whole group, or I guess Carlisle too.
I would probably say Carlisle for sure, especially with a roster that's been the same for like the last 5 years. Like they know each other.
Yeah.
I just don't think Carlisle has the same ability to coach a team like he did a decade ago. Like I haven't seen it. Like I haven't, like he's gotten really fortunate with really good players. Like you had Dirk Nowitzki for the entire time you were in Dallas, and then you had Luka come in right after. Like I think he's just been really lucky. And again, he has a tendency to put players in the doghouse. And like, even when they play well, Miles Turner dropped like a 40 bomb and then like he played him like 29 minutes the next game. How are you going to get a guy that just made 40 points in a game and only play him 29 minutes the next game? Like some of these things just don't make any sense. So like, again, like coaches always, they got to figure it out. And again, like you guys on a good note that you mentioned that new coaches are always going to end up in bad situations because that's why they got hired in the first place.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. This crop of coaches, for the most part, not saying that all of them are, like Chris Finch for the Timberwolves is doing a good job, but then
Yeah.
again, it's hard to do a bad job compared to what they were doing last year.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. It doesn't make it a good job, you know.
And
Right.
yeah, and I think one coach that does have a chance to like turn it around, just since it's so early still, I think Willie Green, who's coaching the Pelicans right now.
Yeah.
So I think obviously everybody's waiting to see when Zion's going to come back. That's kind of
Yeah.
the whole thing. But their roster isn't bad. I think Nikhil Alexander-Walker hasn't been playing that well lately. Brandon Ingram, you saw Brandon Ingram, Jonas Valanciunas, Devontae Graham, Josh Hart. So it's not a great roster, but I think once Zion comes back, that can really help put everything in place, and they can be a lot better. Willie Green was on Monty's Williams staff the past couple of seasons, so I don't think he was a bad hire. I really don't know much about him, but just considering his pedigree, I think they have a decent chance to turn it around once Zion comes back in. It's just a question of when is Zion going to come back, and like, is his weight going
Yeah.
to be a concern?
I
Can he
hear
stay on
it's
the floor?
like I hear it's like 3 weeks to a month right now that they expect.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
Um,
came out
and they
today.
didn't-
Willie Green said.
Yeah, and they don't. And like we talk about all these teams having an easy start, this team did not have an easy start.
Yeah.
They started with Philly, which like we can say what we want about Philly, but like Philly's gonna beat the Pelicans 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, definitely.
They played Chicago, they played Minnesota twice, and they got a game from Minnesota. So I mean, that's fine. They lost to Atlanta, which is a good team, Sacramento, which is the greatest team on earth, and the New York Knicks. So, and it was a close game for the Knicks. So like they're missing their best player, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't be, like they definitely should have won at least one of these games.
Yeah, 100%.
With the roster that they have, but I think they're better than what the record shows. So we'll see with them,
Yeah,
What
I
about
anticipate them
sorry,
turning
sorry.
it around. No, go ahead, Ben. Go ahead, Ben.
I was gonna move
Yeah.
and say like what you guys felt about coaches that could potentially be on the hot seat that they're not rookie head coaches, like they've been in the job at least 1 or 2 seasons. But if you want to finish off with the Pelicans.
No, I'm good with the Pelicans. We can move on to that topic.
I mean, Spurs, Popovich is going to be out in a year or two. So I wouldn't
gonna
say he's in a
retire.
hot seat. He's going to retire before he can even get in the hot seat.
It's
Yeah,
not gonna be
yeah.
his decision, right? Or sorry, it's not gonna be the Spurs' decision, right?
No.
No, he's retiring. They already
Yeah.
announced in 1 or 2 years. Becky Hammond's probably going to get that job.
Yeah.
She's been there for years, so I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't even be surprised if that's the reason why she doesn't interview with so many teams
Yeah.
for the head coaching job, and that's why she hasn't moved on to the WNBA head coaching jobs either, because she probably have all the head coaching jobs there. But she wants NBA.
Good point. Yeah.
So she'll probably end up being head coach of the Spurs eventually. Hot seat. I mean, Tyronn Lue, maybe. I mean, I didn't want to
Maybe.
get into the Clippers yet, but I think
No,
I'm gonna
go
get
for
into
it.
the
Yeah,
Clippers.
let's do it. It's feeling spicy right now.
I'm sorry to do this to you, Benny, but we talked
I
about
actually
this.
had both LA teams in mind.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I don't know about Vogel because again, they're in the middle of the season, and I don't
Yeah.
think they'll fire Vogel middle season with the roster they have right now. Maybe by next year they will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Tyronn Lue, like for what he did in the playoffs last year, good for him. But we talked about this roster. This team is not good enough to make playoffs. And like I put him in the playoffs as a courtesy for like the continuity that they have and Tyronn Lue for the team doing so well in the playoffs last year. But like this beginning of the season is really, really concerning if you're a Clippers fan. You start with the Warriors, which like that was a close game. You can't blame anyone for that game for a loss. You lose to
They
Memphis.
looked good in that game.
Yeah,
But,
and they look good in their defense.
Yeah.
You played Memphis and you lost that game too. You beat the Blazers. Congratulations. You beat this horrible Blazers team. You lose to Cleveland. You lose to Portland right after.
These are
this is
double-digit
not-
losses, by the way.
Right. Like these are big
To
losses.
Cleveland and Portland.
And this is not a testament to Paul George in the slightest. Without Paul George, this team would be 0-6. Like it's not even close. This man is shooting 50% from the field and 37 from 3. So clearly Paul George isn't the issue. We talked about, at least what I mentioned was the guys that they have on their roster just cannot play a second seat to Paul George. Like they're just not good enough. Like we talk about Reggie Jackson. Right now he's shooting 31 from the field, 29 from 3. You have Luke Kennard, which we know this isn't going to keep going. 44 from the field, 42 from 3. Bledsoe, 37 from the field, 18% from the 3. Marcus Morris hasn't played. Zubats isn't a scorer. Terrence Mann, 41%, 33. Batum, 35, 21. These are horrible percentages. So like
that's really bad.
this is a bad
Yeah.
team for Paul George to be with. And again, if we can say all we want that they might get better throughout the season, I would hope they can get better throughout the season, but I'm not really inspired to think that they will. We've seen these guys on other teams not figure it out. Reggie Jackson, he figured it out last season, but in his career, he's never really been a guy that can be help a star player carry a team to a playoff. Eric Bledsoe, the last few seasons, hasn't been able to shoot at all. He even got ran out of Milwaukee. Milwaukee had to go get Drew Holiday because Eric Bledsoe was not good enough for the contract that he had. Luke Kennard's getting paid. Luke Kennard's getting paid like what, 46 mil or even more than that. And like you barely play him. You have to play him. He's probably the only guy that can shoot on your team.
It's so frustrating when they don't. Like it's so obvious the need that they have for shooting. But that being said, I feel like I feel like they're just on a cold streak, and this is the type of thing where
but it's
it's the whole team. I agree, but this is the type of thing where they're gonna live and die by the three up until the time that Kawhi gets there. Not that Kawhi's gonna fix everything like by magic, but they're just gonna be, I feel like, a really streaky team throughout the regular season.
He might not even come back though this year.
Yeah, why would he?
That's true.
One, why would he? That's a good point.
Why would he?
Yeah, no, Benny, I don't know if you wanted to expand on that because he won't come back if they're not good.
That's true. We've seen that show twice. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like we had that debate like more than once here on this podcast about Clippers, Lakers, and I always thought higher of the Clippers, but this is where I agree with Easy as far as like Tyronn Lue. Like, okay, at the beginning of the pod, we were talking about Duncan Robinson being like the one guy that's not playing up to his skill set. Okay, that's Duncan Robinson's fault. But when we look at the Clippers, and aside from Paul George, who is looking like the only player that should be playing professional basketball, exactly. Yeah. Like it's every other player. Like these are role players, right? And so these guys need a role, and they need to be a cog in the system that's supposed to be designed about Paul George, and they're supposed to be put in the right positions, the right lineups, the right situations to get the best out of them. So like if it was, let's say it was just Reggie Jackson that's playing poorly, or like let's say it was fucking Kennard and Jackson. Okay, well that's both of them just not playing well, but everybody else is doing all right. But no, it's all these other role players besides Paul George that's playing poorly. And that's why I agree with Easy. Like I think that Tyronn Lue is in a bit of trouble here.
They're top 10 right now in defensive rating and 26 in offensive rating. So you figure at some point that's going to level out, but I mean, it's like you guys are saying, it's like the whole team is cool.
And it's crazy that they're even doing that well defensively, considering how bad they're doing offensively. So like clearly defense isn't an issue for this team.
Yeah.
But like,
and that's why I think they'll turn it around, but they're so cold right now. It's hard to see it.
It's just so bad.
Yeah.
Like I see these games and I see Paul George playing. I'm like, this is horrible for Paul George. This you can tell this man is really, really trying to make it work with a roster that, like I said, overachieved immensely last year. Like there's no reason why that team should have beat, who was it? The Jazz? I think they played the Jazz. There's no reason that team should have beat the Jazz. The Jazz.
Did they beat the Nuggets? Oh no, the Suns beat the Nuggets. Sorry.
The Jazz lost that series. And again, the Clippers like really earned it with the shooting, but like the Jazz really lost that series, like bad. So like, we'll see with the Clippers, but like, again, Kawhi's not going to come back if they're not playing well. And if they don't play well in the beginning, he ain't coming back. So this is kind of a wasted year. And I'm not saying they're going to fire Tyronn Lue because of this year, because who can even blame Tyronn Lue necessarily for the roster that's there in place? But you did pay a lot of these guys thinking that they could be part of a winning team. So I don't know. I'm concerned about the Clippers. But we'll see. We'll see with the Clippers.
Yeah, so pretty interesting rankings that we have so far through 3 weeks. Lots of unexpected people laying down low. Got Clippers not doing well, but Bulls super hot. Do you guys want to talk about any rookies that are kind of note? I know we hit up Scotty Barnes a little earlier. I want to shout out Franz Wagner for just doing really great things for my fantasy team. No, but seriously, he's playing really well. I mean, I made the joke earlier about how annoying he was against the Heat, but him and his brother Mo, it's just funny to see them both on the court together. But Franz actually looks like a real NBA player, which is something that I had questions about when he got drafted, just because of his athleticism. Wasn't too sure was there, but he looks like he belongs. Is there any other guys that you guys want to talk about? Pretty interesting rookie classes here.
I have not kept up with the rookies this year. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
But
I
it's
mean,
just
Scotty
like,
Barnes
yeah,
is doing
I
well.
only care about winners.
I don't care about vets. He's like Spolstra. Just give me veterans.
Give me
Then he's
year
like,
19 Haslam over.
Benny is the
Give me your 19.
equivalent of the LA Rams when it comes to players. If it's not a Von Miller, Aaron Donald, I don't care.
Don't want it. Not even gonna waste the draft picks.
Oh man, you really do have a Pat Riley mentality. Anyways,
Yeah. I love that.
rookies, Josh Giddey kind of sort of looks like the second best player on the Thunder. Not to say the
He's
Thunder
good,
are good,
man.
but he looks
Yeah.
like he's
No,
gonna
he really does.
Yeah, he
be
does.
an
He looks
important
good.
player for them in the future.
And he
So
rebounds for them. He has a good
he
size.
has
and
like,
he
I'm pretty sure he has
rebounds
like
for them.
8 rebounds a game.
Yeah,
or
it's kinda
something
funny.
like that. It's kind of
Yeah.
crazy. I
Yeah.
really feel bad for him. He's gonna be doing the loser laps this year. But
Yeah.
So other than that, rookie wise, there was another rookie. You mentioned Franz Wagner. He's playing incredibly well.
Mhm.
And we talked about it on draft day too, that like it was an interesting fit that like we thought might actually work well for the Magic
Mhm.
because they always get so many bigs and he kind of plays that forward position a bit.
Right.
So
Yeah, he can create his own shot, which is not something that they've had a lot of.
right. So like he's looked great. I'm trying to see in terms of teams. Jalen Green has not looked good, but that's a testament to
No.
the Houston Rockets.
Yeah, I think the
Um,
Rockets is just a black hole this year. I mean, they're really not
Yeah.
worth even spending a couple minutes on, but they've been just awful. Yeah.
It's just really bad.
Yeah.
Trying to think of the rookies.
I mean, Davion Mitchell's been pretty good.
Defensively, he's been
Defensively,
a
yeah,
shining spot.
yeah.
Big bright spot. We still haven't seen Cade Cunningham. He could be good.
I think didn't he play like I think he had his first minutes the
He
other
played
day,
one
but
game
maybe
and
like
then he
13 minutes or
rested.
something. Yeah, exactly.
Something
Yeah.
like that. And then
Evan
you know,
Mobley. Evan
Evan Mobley's
for
been
the
kind of
Cavs.
surprising.
Yeah.
Especially with all the bigs that
Yeah.
they have. He's looked good. On a side note, I think I'm gonna do this thing throughout the season where I'm gonna just start not watching teams on League Pass. So I'm
Just cross them off the list.
I'm officially gonna make this a segment.
Okay, let's do it. Yeah.
Okay.
There's already one team that I'm just never gonna watch on League Pass. I just
Let's
refuse
go.
to watch them play basketball. It's Houston. I am not
Yeah,
watching
oh
that team
God,
play
they're so bad.
basketball
They're so bad.
ever again this season, unless it's the only game on at night, and I might choose not to watch basketball, which is a lot. But
Damn.
but
They're
like
sapping your love of the game away.
I saw that Lakers Houston game, and I know it was LeBron and AD and all these
Right.
guys, but like
Yeah.
I can't watch them play basketball. It hurts. It hurts my soul. Like it genuinely hurts my eyes. It hurts everything. I don't want
I
to
think we
see
just
that
need to name
team.
this segment "Teams that take joy from the take joy away from the game." Like
Every week
it's
it's just
been-
a different team.
It's been, I mean, it could be a different team every week, but like I know Houston's gonna be that team every week.
yeah, no, just cross them off now.
And
Get them
I'm
off.
crossing off teams and I'll
Yeah.
add them as we go. But like, for example, like you might think I'd say OKC, but you know what? They try. And that
do.
is
They
that
do.
means
And
so
Giddy's
much.
fun to watch. Giddy's fun to watch.
I mean, Giddy's fun to watch, but I could say like, like Kevin Porter, Jalen Green, they could be fun to watch. But like,
Yeah.
OKC tries. I
Yeah.
know they're trying to actively win. I see a team like against the Warriors. I saw them hunt for that game comeback and they almost pulled it off. Like that's a team that wants to play basketball. Houston does not look like a team that wants to even play a sport. They don't want to do anything.
No.
It is insanely bad. I mean, like I could even look at these other 1-6 teams and even give a reason why I would watch them. Orlando, they try. Indiana, they have guys that try. Sabonis, Malcolm Brogdon.
That's like
they're at
that's
least
the most you can
interesting.
hope for,
Yeah.
right? For a
Detroit-
team that
Right.
bad.
Yeah.
Detroit, they haven't even had Cade Cunningham come back yet.
Yeah.
And I would rather
Jeremy
watch
Grant,
Detroit.
Jeremy Grant, Olynyk, they make a fun combo on the court to watch.
Right.
So yeah.
You got the Pelicans, which like at some point Zion's going to come back and that'll be fun to watch. As of right now, I do have them on my list of I'm not going to watch them until Zion gets back.
Yeah. They're
Because that
TBD
team-
for sure.
That is a really rough watch from
Yeah.
what I've been looking at. But other than that, all these other teams look really great. Like some of these matchups have been really fun to watch. Like I've really enjoyed watching Charlotte play. I've loved their offense. Again, I know defense is an issue, but Charlotte's been a super fun team to watch. Again, we're not going to touch too much on Sacramento, but my gosh, their games have been fun. So I'm really excited, but in terms of not watching basketball, I never want to see Houston on a TV this season ever again.
I like this segment. This is great.
What's the team
Cross it off
that
the
you
list.
like then? What's the team? Well, like I know that you said there was a lot of fun teams, a lot of good matches.
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
one team
So
that-
like the team that I'm always looking for, Charlotte, just because it's been fun to watch. Miles Bridges come to his own. It's been really fun watching that team go up and down the court. Even Ish Smith at times looks like a really good point guard. They've been fun to watch. There's even the teams that have losses have been kind of fun to watch. I've been watching Cleveland. It's been interesting to see them play with that the reverse of what the NBA is today, which is just big men on the court. Like it's just such a weird thing to watch. Minnesota's been a lot of fun actually. Just watching the Cat D'Lo Anthony Edwards trio. It's like it's what
Anthony
Wiggins was
Edwards
supposed to be.
Can we talk about
Yeah.
the Anthony Edwards press conferences? Because this dude is just saying the wildest stuff. Like he's hilarious.
This guy's a menace. This guy's
He's
a menace,
hilarious.
man.
He's cursing. He's doing whatever the fuck he wants, but
Didn't
he's
he call
backing it
out?
up.
Wasn't he calling out
Yeah.
Karl Anthony Towns and these guys like, or not specifically, but wasn't he talking about
remember.
complaining about effort for the rest of the roster? Like this guy's like 20.
Oh yeah, he's already like
something.
he's already
he's like the
kind of
leader
taking
of
a
the team.
leadership role. Yeah,
I mean,
I really
he's
like
what
it. Yeah.
he's what Wiggins was supposed to be.
Yeah, and what
Yeah,
Cat will never
honestly.
be.
Yeah,
What Karl Anthony
pretty
Towns will
much.
never be.
But like it's such a fun team, and Ant is like literally what they need. They need a bucket. Like they just need a guy who's gonna get buckets and just like attack every play. This guy's averaging
Yeah.
23 in his second season. Like we're not even talking about this enough. Anthony Edwards is averaging 23 points a game right now, and he's not even shooting well. Like if he starts shooting
crazy.
well, it's gonna be insane. I don't know. Like this team is. I'd be excited to be a Minnesota fan, and the jerseys. I don't know if we want to close this pod on the jerseys. But like,
Okay, yes, that's great. Yeah, I was trying to think of what I want to close on. That's a great idea. So
because the Minnesota jersey is nice.
yeah, just to set this up. So today they dropped all of the city editions for all 32 NBA teams, which was surprising. I didn't think they were going to drop them this early. We had some pretty interesting ones. The only ones I've really taken a look at are like, well, I saw like the Sacramento ones, Sacktown. I don't know why they do it to themselves. We had
What do you mean that's a
you had
dub? That's
yeah, I
huge
mean, I
dub.
guess it's a dub, huge dub. Kings gang rise up. But you had the Heat jersey was pretty interesting. I didn't really like
Awful.
it. Wasn't my favorite.
Awful jersey.
The Heat logo itself was cool, but the rest of the jersey you can just throw it away. Any cool ones that stood out to you guys?
There's been a lot of good ones here. I gotta look back at this.
I only
I'm
saw
trying to
the Heat
look
one.
for it
Sorry.
online, yeah. Yeah, no, there's been some good ones. Denver was nice. I know even the Toronto one, I'm kind of over the OVO thing.
I like the Toronto one,
but I like that the Raptors on the thing. But I
Yeah.
like that the
Yes.
Raptors actually on the
Yes.
jersey. It's not just like a club soccer team where you don't even have like a logo. Like, nah, like we actually have a
Just
Raptor
put
here.
the-
We're called
put
the Raptors.
dinosaur on the on the
Right.
front of the
Put
jersey.
the dinosaur on it.
That's all you
Charlotte's
need.
is
Yeah.
Charlotte's is super nice too. It's
Yeah.
got that really cool like blue on the top, and then it trickles down to a light blue, and then goes back to the dark blue on the shorts. Really nice look.
I
for
like the
Charlotte
Nuggets
Hornets,
one too. I like the Nuggets one. They have cool colors on the side.
for sure.
Yeah, man.
there's some nice jerseys out here.
Definitely.
The Houston one is nice, but they're still unwatchable.
Yeah, so watchable. Not even watchable with those jerseys on.
Not even remotely.
Yeah, so some pretty cool stuff going on there with the city editions. Been a great first 3 weeks of the season. I guess by the time this pod drops, it'll be Tuesday, so we'll be looking at Heat at Dallas, Sacramento at Utah will be a really fun game to watch. You have New Orleans at Phoenix, which is a TNT game for some reason. I don't know if you listeners at home are gonna want to watch that one. But we also have Houston at LA. So definitely games to watch would be Miami, Dallas, Sacramento, Utah. So definitely pay attention to those games, and we'll keep you updated here throughout the rest of the season. Any final thoughts before we close it out?
Yeah, buy your tickets to Heat Chicago. That's gonna be a great game.
3 dudes, 1 hoop will be there live, baby. Saturday, December 11th. Let's go.
Yeah.
All right, man. All right. Take it easy, everybody. We'll catch you on the next pod.
Later, guys.